Hello, beautiful acupuncturists. I am Dr. Charlene Lawrence, the founder of the Hypnopuncture Method, and here's another teaching that, again, I deep dive into this in my hypnopuncture workshops and my master's course, and it's something that I cover with all of my hypnopuncture patients to allow them to learn a little bit more about how their mind works. And so I'm going to share that with you here, hopefully briefly. Hopefully I can get through it kind of quick. And so this is called the theory of mind. So this is how we are going to use hypnosis and hypnopuncture to connect the conscious mind, where you and I are at right now, with the subconscious and the unconscious. So I'll explain the differences between those in a minute. And so here is the theory of mind. And again, I literally draw this for my patients just as I am right now on these whiteboards. Okay, so I like to say, imagine that this circle, ooh, this is not a good circle today. This circle is your mind. And so we are all born with our primitive mind. And our primitive mind is actually the fight or flight response. We all know that that's the sympathetic nervous system. And our primitive mind responds to loud noises and the fear of being dropped. So this space down here is pure survival, keeping us alive as a species. And then from the ages of about 0 to 8 years old, some studies will say 0 to 7, others say 0 to 9. I like to pick right in the middle, so 0 to 8. Is when we start to make positive and negative associations with everything in our world. And so during this time of our lives and, being a young child, we don't have the ability to discern yet what's necessarily good, bad, truthful, untruthful, any of that. We're just making positive associations. And actually, we accept everything as absolute truth. So a child around this age is going to believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all of these things, and it's because they have yet to develop their critical mind. And so they're just taking everything you tell them, that Santa Claus is real and the Easter Bunny is real, they're taking that as absolute truth. And so they're just associating whether that's a positive thing or a negative thing. And I like to say, if a 4-year-old gets a puppy for Christmas and it's soft and sleeps in his bed and gives him kisses, that 4-year-old is probably going to make a positive association with dogs. A different 4-year-old might get bit by a dog and not have a household pet and have to get stitches, and it was painful and scary, and so that child is going to make a negative association with dogs. And as we grow up, we may not even remember these events. We just know we have these positive and negative feelings about certain things. And then around 8, we develop our critical mind. And our critical mind actually opens up our consciousness. So our conscious thought gets opened by our critical mind, and our consciousness now allows for willpower, desire, logic, and reason. And so we have our conscious space here, and then we have everything below it, that sub and unconscious space. Our conscious mind makes up 12% of our mind power, and the rest, that 88%, is subconscious or unconscious. Now, the difference between the subconscious and the unconscious, here's how I like to look at it. This is not well defined. We don't have any studies, any concrete evidence that can define the difference between the two. So here's how I basically see the subconscious and the unconscious working together. To me, the unconscious is all of this primitive mind stuff. We have no control over our heartbeats to the point of I can't think to, make my heartbeat change. and make that speed different. I can utilize things like breath work to control the rate of my heart rate. But if I'm in, especially if I'm in like a fight or flight situation, I have no control. To me, that's an unconscious thing. It's absolutely happening because without my mental influence. And then we have our subconscious, that space in between the conscious and the unconscious. And this is where we do have a bit of influence if we know what we're working with. And so the conscious can communicate with the unconscious through the subconscious. I hope this is getting across. I hope this makes sense to you guys. So these two are so far apart from each other, the unconscious and the conscious, that they can't communicate with each other at all unless they go through this space. So with hypnosis, what we're doing with our patients is our patients have this conscious desire to get better, right? So 12% of their conscious thought is saying, I want to get better. I want to stop eating the junk food. I want to make the lifestyle changes. But this subconscious space and the unconscious space is really driving the bus. So what we do with hypnopuncture is we break down this critical mind by putting somebody into hypnosis. So the critical mind goes away when you're in the hypnotic state, meaning those 30 minutes before you fall asleep, the 30 minutes after you wake up in the morning, our critical mind is offline during that time. And we're very accepting of suggestions, whether it's positive or negative. So we'll break down this critical mind. And then what we'll start to do is we will start to flip some of these negative associations that we have. We might beef up more of these positive associations. And then that way we're able to actually communicate with the subconscious so that it goes even further and becomes unconscious, where eventually we are so used to something that it's no longer a thought. It just happens automatically, like brushing your teeth. That has been so repetitive throughout your life that you always brush your teeth at least twice a day, and maybe you have certain triggers right after you get up or after you eat breakfast or whatever your trigger may be. It's become an unconscious thing where you just go straight to it. So while we work with our patient, we can work through this subconscious space and, like I said, beef up some of these positive associations, flip some of the negative ones to get them to accept the changes that they're consciously looking for. I hope this was helpful. Please reach out to me and drop comments below. I am happy to answer questions. And as always, be well.